This is the view east from Foreen in the valley in Achill Island off the west coast of Ireland. We're looking back at the mainland. And that hedge where the trees are popping out of has been just cut back by me there in the last week. And there are the cuttings. And there's also cuttings from the driveway which goes up the side of the house there. And my plan is to get a wood chipper in and shred and chip all of that cuttings and use it as mulch, because I'm going to try and do a back to Eden garden, vegetable garden, just here on this side of the hedge. Underneath where all these cuttings are is going to be my vegetable plot for next season. So it's just the end of September 2017. And I'll do a bit of footage when the shredder arrives. Here comes the wood chipper. Had a lovely day and a massive pile of wood chippings. Able-bodied German workman here, Frank, have just finished that huge pile of hedge clippings, and we've shredded them down to this wonderful pile. You can see we've styled it like a camel with two humps there, which is very important. There's the incredible machine that did all the work. It's about three.
Do you want to ride on it?
Huh?
Do you want to ride on the camel?
We'll ride on the camel after. There's probably 3 hours work there, and the machine just didn't flinch at anything. We put branches 5 inches diameter through it and it just laughed at it. So just amazing machine. And there's Frank. Good man, Frank. I have to buy him a few beers now for all his hard work.
Oh yeah.
So this is the area where the Back to Eden garden is going to happen. So I will post updates as they happen. Here's the arrival of some topsoil. Some more topsoil and some spare bark chippings. So I'll be doing work all up the front of the house. Here's my German helper Frank. He's reading all these newspapers, and after he's read them he's putting them down. So we're putting 3 layers of paper. Trying not to leave any gaps. We'll go over it before we put the soil on, and that's the first part of it. Now this morning we went down to the local beach and we got this beautiful big pile of seaweed, and we're going to put down on the newspapers. We're going to put some layer of topsoil, and then we're going to put the seaweed on it, and then we still have our beautiful pile of wood chippings over there. Okay, stop reading, Frank, just keep working there, that's it, good man. Okay, so this is the newspapers covered with not a very deep layer, like maybe a shovel full over the whole area of newspapers. It's amazingly calm here today in the west of Ireland, here in Achill Island. Normally it'd be whipping around the wind and the newspapers would be all over the island, but it's amazingly calm, so managed to get the soil down with no disturbance from the newspapers, making sure not to leave any gaps. And then the ground is very uneven. I did nothing to level the ground, so just after I had all the soil on top of the newspapers, I just, with the rear side of the rake, so as not to pierce the newspapers, I just kind of gently pushed soil around to fill in any hollows. The reason it's in that weird shape is because I decided to stop and not put all the newspapers out and then run out of either topsoil or seaweed or chippings. And also it's less daunting when you have a smaller area to work on. So there's about 2 hours of single labour, one person labour to do what I've done here. Frank had to leave earlier on when the work got tough. Yeah, so yeah, that's about 2 hours work. It's about 1.5 tons of topsoil has gone onto those newspapers. So the next step, I'm going to start putting the seaweed on top of this, and then start putting some of the wood chippings on top of the seaweed, and then I'll have a fair idea of how, you know, I'm definitely going to need more seaweed, and I should have enough chippings for this area, but I'll keep going each calm day, each dry day I get, I'll just do another bit more and keep increasing the area. So it's probably a good way to go, just doing step by step, and maybe finish each area. I don't want to leave this exposed for the rain to get at, so I'll make sure that this amount of work is layered before the end of today, and then, well, if I manage to get it done, and then the next few days I'll just add on as I go, and I can always run down to the beach and get more seaweed. So here we go. Okay, so I've just put a layer of seaweed on the topsoil on the newspapers, and that was very quick, took about 20 minutes, very satisfying. Great coverage. I don't know how deep it is, several inches. I had no idea how much seaweed to bring, and just kind of loaded up the back of the small van, and turns out it was exactly the right amount. So intuition at play. Yeah, just very satisfying, and you can just see the richness of it. I believe that it's best, so this seaweed was just harvested this morning. Some of it was washed up on rocks and not attached to the rocks, and it was low tide, so other parts of the seaweed we cut with knives off rock, so it was still alive and growing. And if you leave enough of a stump on the rock, it'll grow back, which we did. So I'd say more than half of it was already washed off rocks and just lying on rocks and probably starting the decomposition process, but was still at the mercy of the tide, so it's very fresh. So that's the seaweed. So now I'm going to cover that with wood chippings. Okay, so this is the last video report for today. I've just finished putting a layer of the wood chips on top of the seaweed, on top of the topsoil, on top of the newspapers, on top of the grass. So that's the pile. I'd say I've probably only, if I've even used a quarter of it, I'm not sure. It's amazing how much it had already started breaking down. That's been sitting there for maybe a month, and it's definitely shrank quite a bit in size. And it's amazing how dusty it has already got when you get into the core of it. And it's just That was such an enjoyable day's work. Putting the topsoil on was actually the hardest part of the day. Taking it from in the wheelbarrow from those bags over there over to here, shoveling it in and shoveling it back out again. And in fact, when I saw how amazing the coverage is from the seaweed, it probably makes the topsoil redundant. But this is my first time trying this, so I don't know what the effect of the seaweed will be to the eventual soil or the compost that'll be the result after the winter. But that was a really satisfying day's work. Now I've fairly gauged. I've lots of topsoil left. I've loads of newspapers left. I've loads of wood chips left, and the seaweed is only about half a mile down the road. So any low tide, I can go on over there and get another load of seaweed. So I'm going to, over the next while, expand that strange L-shaped area and just cover more and more as I go. And I think I'll do the same for outside the front of the house. The flower beds have been totally neglected, so I'll get nice soil started in them so I can plant some nice stuff next spring. So that's the report. Very enjoyable. Highly recommend it to anybody. Seaweed is absolutely a godsend, especially if you're close to it. Here in Achill Island, there's very few trees. I have the wood chips because I cut down a lot of hedges, but there's very few trees on the island. We're quite remote and quite exposed to the elements. But where we lack in wood chippings, we definitely seem to have a boon in seaweed. So hopefully seaweed is beneficial for things that are going to be planted in it. I'm sure it will be. Anyway, I'll report in further as things develop. So here I am at the local beach. I'm just after getting another good load of seaweed. I'm a bit more experienced now, so I've realised that you do not need to cut seaweed off the rocks, and there's always plenty washed up at the back of the beach, and it's equally as beneficial for mulch. So that's just what I take now. And it's far easier. You don't have to cut it and you don't have to worry about it growing back. Because I've been coming here several times now in the last few weeks, I've had to go a bit further and further down the beach because no new seaweed has been washed in. It's been quite calm weather, I suppose, maybe, or maybe it's just the season for the seaweed. So this is the latest place I've just come to. Nice grey day here in Achill. That seaweed there up at the back of the beach, that's what I've been taking. And I've taken a lot of seaweed from all the way down the rocks down there over the last few weeks. I've researched more and more about seaweed, and it just seems to be incredible stuff, so I'm delighted that I have so much of it at my doorstep. So I think Frank, my German helper, is coming over again this morning, so we're going to get a bit more work done, and I'll talk again soon. So myself and Frank have just done a couple of hours work, and what we've done is we've started tidying up at the front of the house here, at the front of the cottage. So we dug up, well, we didn't really do much digging at all. We dug a lot of the growth that was up against the wall of the house. I'm hopefully going to put in like a French drain there just to prevent damp ever getting into the house. And then the bed that was in front, we just dug out a few of the weeds, not too much, and then just put down the newspapers and did the same layers of soil, topsoil, and then seaweed, and then a nice bit of the wood chippings on top, and then just a nice border of stones around. So these stones just came from further down the land. That's really tidied up lovely. So that's kind of one end of the house tidied up. And this side needs to be done. It'll be the same formula. Might transplant some of those bigger trees and stuff. I think it'll really tidy up the house nicely. And then we just have maybe some wood chips up to the door there. I don't really use the front door, I always go around the back of the house. Okay, so the front of the house is pretty much finished now. I just need a few rocks for the top end here. Frank's idea was good. Put in some bark chippings there at the door, which, as I say, I don't use, but just tidies it up. And it's the rocks holding back the seaweed and wood chips. And that'll be beautiful soil. I have a little robin there. He's getting the benefit of all the all the bugs that are in the seaweed. So I've loads of seaweed left. I found a great local spot that's even closer access for the car or the van, so I can get as much of that as I want. So yeah, it's all looking good. So it's just middle of November and everything is coming along nicely. There was quite a few trees, well, small saplings were growing in this area here, so I picked the best of them. There's some Montbretia here that'll recover, and then there's some grasses there, and then I think that's a rose bush, and I'm not sure what this little fella is here, and then there was a couple of saplings, and then there's another one over behind the van. So they're in nice seaweed mulch and wood chip mulch. Hopefully they'll survive the crossing of the road and they'll thrive here. So yeah, it's all starting to come together very nicely. Quick video report. This morning I've just done prepared this extra bed here. So the dimensions are about 1 metre by about 4 metres, and it took me an hour altogether. That's putting in the newspapers, covering them with the topsoil, seaweed and the wood chips. So very easy to do. You get an awful lot of vegetables growing in that small area. That's the bigger one that I've done previously. So yeah, I think having your materials close at hand saves time, obviously. So I have my wood chips right here. You see the pile is still quite substantial. Maybe half of it is gone at this stage, maybe not even. I still have some seaweed over there. I kind of do every couple of days. I run down and grab more seaweed. And there's not much topsoil left, but yeah, I'm not even sure how important that is. But anyway, it'll all become obvious next spring when I pull back some of the wood chips and seaweed and see what sort of compost I have underneath. But it's very easy to do, and getting more efficient at it. Again, it's another lovely calm day here, so there's no problem with the newspapers blowing away on me, so I can do this job on my own. So about an hour for that size, and I'll probably put another one in now. I think the rain is coming this afternoon, but I'll get another one in before the rain arrives.